Yo, check this out. This is Wayne Wonder, representing for Warrior LTV. You see the vision, don't it? See the vision. Warrior LTV. Keep it locked.
Now, I'm gonna tell you. We, us, as bloggers, these are the issues that we need to address. You understand what I said? Set the bar for the youth. Share, like, and subscribe, and stay tuned to the channel. I don't know all this shit. Yes, brothers and sisters. Greetings once again in the mighty name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I the First, and all things good and wonderful amongst us and about us. Welcome viewers and subscribers. Viewers, if you like the content, subscribe and make well raise up the platform. You know, see? So today we really are going to chill back and listen to a politician, an ex-politician, or regardless, a politician. Ex-Prime Minister Bruce Golding. You know, I give him peace on why I think Jamaica'S went wrong since independence. One thing we notice him say, him not mention of Mr. Manley, and it was Mr. Manley's desire, the Manley's desire from day one to educate the nation, because them sister backside now going away, and we need what I call it, people power scene to educate the people, because this will be a best economic resource. Them not admit that and kind of try attribute it to Siaga just the other day, yeah. Seen while Michael Manley them and the Manley them are push for that from day one. You know, I must wonder. I must do a video, I go and research Natasha Manley and her brother, you know, where them there. We all draw them back in our politics. Yeah, it looks so. Seen? Now, we know enough of I say, well, him teeth them there, oh, him look like him mount mash, sir. No, him not think him mount mash, the man all man, you know, and you know, see. Yeah. But more than anything else, is that them politicians are coming like say when them come out of power, them have an epiphany. Them realize what Jamaica really need. When them didn't have power, none of them. I mean, like I said, long before them guys are coming up power, you know, all of this thing was discussed, and it was a design, was a way forward, it was a political policy. You know, see it? Long before. Now, when them in power, they embrace them standards, yeah, and them principles, yeah. And when them come out of power, now, yeah, obviously, you see, these are the things that keep holding us back and keep us back upon the hard shoulder rasta. We can't join the race of life because we're being purposely held back by some egotists, some guys were driven by them personal desires and things like that. When them get in power, them get, you know? Yeah, all of them. PJ Patterson do the same thing. We can't wait for fame thing, because at the end of the day, PJ Patterson come in and live in a denial. You know, see it? Right back on Michael Manley come out. You know, Michael Manley pass on the thing to him. PJ Patterson never try draw for a truth and reconciliation type of, you know, thing. Where would explain what really go on in the late 70s and through the 80s to Jamaican. So that's Jamaican. And we design a way to move forward. You understand? When PJ Patterson come in and live in a denial and act like he wasn't a part of the whole shebang and he never did a benefit from the bad man type thing. The Dan them. Him come, him discredit and him disassociate from the Dan, ostracize them and things like that, without no formal explanation, and just move on. And then them man was the man where them engineer for decades for maintain the status quo, you know, regarding for them thing. You know, see it, and then you just come out openly, denounce them, push them one side, and create Zeeks and Dodos who, you know, them own thing now decide to downtown Kingston are for them, because politicians don't mean them no good. Them use them, abuse them, and turn them back on them. And that was too obvious to regular Jamaican. You know, see, at this government badness start. PJ Patterson. Seeing anyway, them have an interview going with the two of them, PJ Patterson and Bruce Golding. And want to try broadcast it one of this day, yeah, and listen to some of the wisdom of them old player there. we have them, still have them offshore account and thing like that. We never did hear say allegedly PJ Patterson own a chateau in France. You know see? So yeah, them little thing that we want to observe and we want them people you know we are come back this time attack what should be done, things what them should they do, things were exhausted, things were you know what I say? Yeah. So sit back and take in that video Rasta and hear what them guys say, you know. And yeah, we give thanks once again. You know, see, cheer, like, and subscribe. Rastafari.
If you ask me, where have we failed the most in 60 years of independence? It is that we have not provided the kind of education and training for young people. Back in 1962, you could become a developed country with a relatively untrained labor force because the manufacturing process then, we were pursuing a model of development pioneered by the late Sir Arthur Lewis. It was called industrialization by invitation, but it was working. What it sought to do was to utilize the biggest asset that we had. Apart from bauxite and aluminum, we didn't have any mineral resources. We don't have oil. Sure, we have our beaches and our sand and so on, which have provided the basis for tourism. What we had plentifully was labor, but it was untrained labor. In 1962, only the children of the privileged, and I thank God for my benefit, I've been one of them who had the opportunity to go to high school. But the majority of students in those days, you left elementary school, that's what we call it then, which was that kind of combination of primary and some secondary subjects. We used to do the first and second and third Jamaica local. But that was it. You left there and you went into a workforce with little or no skills, and you kind of fought your way and so on. We opened up education back in the 60s when the government pursued a policy where it dedicated a 70% of the children who passed common entrance had to come from primary schools, elementary schools, not from the prep schools like the VAS, preps and so on, which was designed to put them in a stream where they could get access to secondary education. And of course, much of that secondary education was free, was paid for by the government. But while we opened up access, and then of course, in the 1960s, we built 50 what they call junior secondary schools, which was a kind of midway between primary and secondary. While we opened up access, we didn't pay attention to the quality. So what we were trying to do was to give the children of the poor the same opportunities for education that the kids who went to Monroe and JC and Calabar and so on had. But we didn't pay enough attention to the quality. So, to put it bluntly, we built 50 secondary schools, but we didn't train the teachers at the same time that we're going to staff those secondary schools. So what did we do? We ended up pulling the teachers from the primary school to put them in a new secondary school, which left the primary school basically without the cadre of good teachers that we used to have. So we ended up with a situation where we were running the kids through secondary school, but they were coming out not much more capable than they were when they entered. I don't know if you have had a chance to look at the report of the Patterson Hall and the Patterson Commission. It should not have frightened me because those figures have been around for a long time. The Ray Davis report of 2004 had pointed to much the same problem, but I really was shocked when they pointed out, for example, that 53% of the kids, and this is the pen exam, 53% of the kids can read. 56% can't write. 57% cannot identify information in a simple sentence. But we transition them, we move them from primary because they've reached age. Don't worry about whether or not they have reached the mental acuity. They have reached age, so we put them into the primary school. To put them into the secondary school. Then when you get to the secondary school, now the results are equally alarming. Each year we graduate from our secondary schools 41,000 kids. Only a little more than half of them, I think 20 or 23,000, have done well enough to sit the CSE, what they used to call the CSEC exam. A little more than half of them have reached the stage where it makes sense for them to enter the exam room. And of that number, 28% of them get 5 subjects with math and English. Now, 5 subjects with math and English is basically the minimum requirement if you are to pursue a life, a skills equipped life. Now, if 28% of just a little over half, it works out at actually 16% of the total cohort. So of the 41,000 kids that are leaving high school every year, 16% of them have got the 5 subjects, including math. At the time of independence, if you had what was that senior Cambridge, the equivalent of GCE, you could get a job as a teller in a bank. Today, if you're not employing now that many tellers anymore, but if you are to work as a teller in a bank, you have to have a university degree. So at a time when the qualifications for productive, rewarding employment is going up, we are producing 16% of the kids out of high school that have that qualification. So it's only that 16% that can go on to university. It's only that 16% that can turn up at an interview somewhere to apply for a job. Our education system has become a factory. When I was at school, if you didn't do well in a particular grade, next year you're in the same grade. You have to repeat because you haven't measured up. We run a conveyor belt now where we just move them from one grade to the next. Whether they have done well or not, no, we're moving them just the same. Now, in a factory, you have a quality controller who picks out the rejects and separates that from the good product. In the case of our children, it is their potential employer who does that. When you turn up and you don't have the qualifications, they say, sorry, I can't help you. Now, our future lies not in manufacturing. We cannot compete with China. Our future lies not in oil and gas, because we don't have that. We'd love to be able to find it. Our future lies in services. If you look at what tourism has meant to us, tourism is services. You're giving the guests a good time. You're taking them on tours and you're serving them in the hotels and so on. Those are services. Our future lies in services now. I'm saying that many people have said it before. People said it 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But if we are to do well in services, we need trained people. And that is our biggest area of failure. If you ask me, where have we failed the most in 60 years of independence? It is that we have not provided the kind of education and training for young people. former Prime Minister, Mr. Seaga, made the point, made the observation, and it's so true. He said that there is no country in the world with an educated population that is poor. So to me, there's a direct relationship between the quality of your education and your state of development and the standard of living and so on that your people enjoy. And if there's one area that I would like to see us muscle up, find a common purpose. We quarrel too much over education, about who did what and who is doing what. We are going to have to be prepared to face down the opponents of change. One of the biggest opponents of change in the country is the Jamaican Teachers Association. It is the most powerful pressure group in the country. They know how to play the government and the opposition against each other. And if ever there was a time when government and opposition and private sector need to come together and say, no, look, this is our biggest problem and this is what we have to fix. And face down those enemies of change, enemies of reform. I saw I think it was a Gleaner, I saw 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, where the JTA was complaining about their teachers not getting their leave pay because after 5 years of service, they're entitled to 4 months of vacation leave. 4 months of vacation leave is 17 weeks. Now here, I don't know if it has changed, I don't think so. Schools are closed for 13 weeks out of the year. 6 or 7 weeks at summer, 4 weeks at Christmas, and 2 weeks at Easter. 13 weeks out of the year. The children are sent home when the school is closed. The teachers are also sent home. So they get paid for 13 weeks out of the year staying at home. Then on top of that, every 5 years they're to get 17 weeks. Now I ask you, which business, including the Gleaner company, could afford to pay a worker to stay home 13 weeks of the year, and on top of that, every 5 years, pay them for another 17 weeks?
But they argue that they don't stay home 13 days. They have to make lesson plans and they have to mark paper and make preparations.
Mark which paper? But there's no paper being produced. The kids gone home. No kids not writing no paper. How long it takes for them to get ready to go back to school? 2 weeks? There are a lot of teachers during the summer, if they have a visa, that go to America, gone to some work, earn some money. Good for them. But they earn the money up there, they get paid here, and then after 5 years, they must get 17 weeks. I mean, you tell me which other country in the world, ask the people in Singapore, that's what they do. They don't. Their schools are not closed to 13 weeks a year. In Singapore, I think the kids must get 2 weeks for Christmas and 1 week for Easter, and that's it. And must have 3 weeks for summer. We need to get serious. And education is the key. I mean, you know, it sounds like a Sankey that everybody sings, but then we need to get serious about it. People talk about, well, you need to spend more money on education, I agree. This year, we're spending $122 billion on education. 70 billion of that, 60%, I think, more than 60%. Yeah, around 60%. 70 billion of that 122 is dedicated to primary and secondary education. Now, fine, we may say we need to spend more, but when you look at the results that are coming out, are we getting $70 billion worth of results? And I'll put it another way. Suppose we could find another 30 billion to bump it up to 100 billion. Would we get any significantly improved results? I doubt it. We're coming from a system where only the children of the upper middle class and the rich who go to secondary school. This was the Monroes and the JCs and the St. Andrew Highs and the Immaculate. If you insist that parents must pay, there are some parents who won't be able to pay, and they're going to fall out. So we're going to be going back to a system where it is the privileged who will have access to secondary education. Now you may say, well, the bar of privilege has been brought lower. But if you're going to insist that parents must pay these fees that school principals choose to impose, well, somebody needs to explain to me how the domestic helper who has 3 children, father abandoned them from nothing. She earns what domestic helpers earn now. 12,000 a week, 14,000 a week. Somebody must explain to me where out of that $12,000 or $14,000 a week is she going to be able to find money to pay the kind of fees that were in place when I decided, no, these fees must be abandoned. Because some of the schools, and I'm not just talking about the Tapanara schools, some of the schools will tell parents that, the fees for the term $30,000. Some of them not so high, some of them maybe half. But where does the helper find $30,000? I mean, that helper has never seen $30,000 in one bundle yet. So what more sacrifices? She is already making sacrifices every time she goes to the supermarket. Because when she puts something in the trolley and she reaches the cashier, she has to put back some. And you're saying to her, what she's going to end up doing is deciding, well, look, which is something I hope we don't get back. In the old days, when I was a youngster, and I grew up in a rural district, St. Faith's in St. Catherine, a family could not afford, and of course in those days there is plenty of children, 5 of us. A family could afford to send all of them to school. So what they did is that they try and pick up the one who looks like he can take learning. And they would send that one in the hope that, all right, when you become the teacher or the doctor or the nurse or the engineer, you will turn around and help the other one then. Send out the money for them every week. That's not where we need to be talking about going back. 60th year of education. So, but to get back to the Patterson report, let us grab hold of it. Let us decide now that we're not messing up this time. We messed up with the radiators report of 2004. We implemented some elements of it, but many elements remain, lacking. Let us make up our mind that every dollar that we can squeeze out of our current obligations and pressures, that's where we're going to put it.